All right, reason number 5 on my list you should consider when deciding to quit your job is if you're a hamster, literally, like you do the same thing over and over. Hey guys, welcome to another episode with the Financial Controller. Today we're talking about the 6 reasons that you should consider when deciding to quit your job and look for a new one. And all of these reasons basically are based on my own experience from working in finance for the last 15 years. So over the last 15 years, I worked in about 6 or 7 different jobs. And over the years, I've quit my job and looked for a new one based on one or a combination of these reasons. So I wanted to summarize all of these reasons here, which one of them by itself could be enough for you to quit your job, or sometimes you have a combination of these reasons going on at the same time. So we'll talk about all of these reasons here in a minute, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a summary of how you should think about this move, how you should strategically think of when to leave your job, what to look for in the next role, and all of these things. So let's get into it. But first, let me say that right now we are in December of 2020 and we are in a global recession due to the pandemic. So the job market may not be as good. So before you decide to leave your job, you absolutely have to make certain that you line up a new job before making any move. So take all of this into context that you have to always line up a job before you decide to leave your job. All right, so reason number 1 is that you and your boss don't see eye to eye on things. And that means that whenever you say left, they say right. Whatever you want to do, they always want to do the opposite. So we're not talking about here the one-off situation that you disagree with your boss, but I'm talking about when you consistently are seeing things on the opposite side of the track. And one example for this from my own career is that early on in my career, one of my jobs, I wanted to implement an ERP software to help us as an accounting team do things faster and better. But my manager didn't want to do it and didn't want to spend the money on the project. And so we've always had this argument over whether we're doing things badly because we don't have the ERP software to support the team. And so it could be a one-off situation. You always have to judge it whether it's a one-off case or you're always seeing things differently. And you always have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, because maybe they have a valid reason for seeing things differently, right? But if you're consistently and always seeing things differently and just not being able to be on the same page, this might be a reason for you to call it quits. But again, like I said at the beginning of the video, you always have to line up a new job before you even begin to think about leaving this job, right? So this is reason number 1, is not seeing eye to eye with your boss. Okay, reason number 2 you might want to quit your job is if you have an unappreciative boss. And this is the kind of boss that no matter what you do, no matter if you achieve your goals and even go beyond your goals, they never really show excitement for that, never support you by showing the appreciation and the excitement for your work. And so this is the kind of boss that always will have the same facial expression, this kind of poker face that doesn't change no matter if they're excited or not excited about the work. And so to me, at least in accounting, this is really important because the work itself in accounting and finance doesn't have an intrinsic reason to be happy, because we're not necessarily saving lives. We're not really working in an IC unit and saving burn victims, for example, right? So we work with like inventory, financial statements, and things that doesn't have an intrinsic satisfaction to it. And so the satisfaction then comes from being able to achieve a goal and being able to be celebrated by your boss and by your coworkers. So for me, this has been one of the reasons why I've left a job or another, is because I had a boss that didn't appreciate me for what I did, right? So this is reason number 2 on my list, having an unappreciative boss.
If you or anyone you know is preparing for a job interview in accounting, be sure to download my accounting interview checklist. It's 100% free and an amazing summary of the most common accounting interview questions. I'll leave a link in the description below.
All right, reason number 3 on my list for quitting a job has been a boss that's out of touch with my worth, with my market value in terms of salary. And so the example of that, once early on in my career, I had been asking my manager to increase my salary and I wasn't getting any response. And so I literally had to go one day into his office with the salary guide from Robert Half. So if you don't know, if you're not in accounting, there's a salary guide that you can get annually from Robert Half that shows exactly what are the compensation by state, by the number of years of experience, the size of the company, and all of these things. So I showed my manager the salary that I should be making compared to what I was making, and I actually ended up getting more than what I had initially wanted because of what's in the salary guide. And so for me, that was a good outcome. But in some other cases, I've had managers where they don't really budge. No matter what you say, they don't listen. And so this is a big reason for me to leave a job, is having a boss that doesn't understand the market value for somebody who's working with the skills and with the history and the experience that you have, doesn't really understand your market value or worth. And so this is a good reason for you to begin to think, especially this usually comes with also being unappreciated. So these together can be a good combo for me to begin thinking about looking for a new job. So reason number 3 is a boss that's out of touch with the market value of the employees. Okay, reason number 4, I've quit a job in the past, has been having co-workers that are backstabbers. And we all know who they are, right? These are the guys who would email you and copy a bunch of other people in the email, maybe your boss or someone else, and explain to you how you're not getting a certain concept or how something went wrong with one thing or another, and basically making a big deal out of it, right? So this is really important for me. Just like I said, having a supportive boss, having coworkers that support me is really important for me. So the supportive coworker is someone that if you're not understanding a certain concept, they work with you privately to get you up to speed, right? So if you're behind on one thing, is to work with you privately to get you to understand what's going on. If you're new to the company, they bring you up to speed and all that. But those kind of coworkers that are backstabbers are the ones who would make everything public, make a big deal out of everything. And basically what they're trying to do most of the time is they're trying to climb on your back, right? So they're trying to look like they understand, or trying to make themselves look better on your expense, so that they may be able to climb and get a better role, more money, or whatever the case may be. So having coworkers that are backstabbers really creates a bad environment and makes me not want to get up from bed in the morning to go to work, right? So this has been at least once or twice in my career, I've had a case like this where just the work environment was toxic and I just had to leave. And so this is reason number 4 for me, is having co-workers who are backstabbers. All right, reason number 5 on my list you should consider when deciding to quit your job is if you're a hamster. Literally, like you do the same thing over and over. And this may be okay if that's the job description. So if you're a factory worker that's working the assembly line, this may be the job. This may be the case that you are doing the same thing over and over. And frankly, even in accounting, so I work in accounting for the last 15 years, and the nature of work in accounting is pushing the same buttons over and over, literally, every week and every month, right? So you're closing the books, you're compiling financial statements, you're making sure you're reconciling your accounts receivable, accounts payable, you're doing a bunch of things over and over again. But for me, the value in doing that has been learning things. So I'm okay with being the hamster as long as I'm learning new skills, both professionally and personally. So in the professional side is learning new financial systems, for example, through doing the same stuff over and over. I'm learning new systems or learning about new accounting pronouncements. So that's developing professionally. And then developing personally and developing the way that I learn how to talk to people, speak publicly, present, make ideas simpler so I can get people's attention and things like that. So it's okay for you if you're a hamster, but learning. So a learning hamster is a good way to put it, right? If you are learning and developing the whole time, it's fine. But if you are not learning and you're a hamster, you may want to begin to think about leaving that position and look for a new one. So this is reason number 5 on my list, is if you are literally doing the same thing over and over without any value, without learning any new skills. All right, reason number 6 on my list when deciding to leave a job is when someone makes you an offer you can't refuse, to borrow the words of the Godfather, right? So basically, if you met with someone that made you an offer that's too good to pass up, an example of that for me has been, for example, working for a startup early on. So there were a couple of times in my career where I was offered to work for a startup, and I knew that working for a startup and establishing the entire accounting function from the grounds up would make me learn so much, right? Would add so much value to my career. And in one of those cases, I actually became a controller. So that was my first controller role, is because I worked at a startup. I was the first accounting hire. I established all of the processes underneath in terms of vendor and customer and all of the accounting, right? And then I became the controller and built a team under me, right? So this is an example of an opportunity or an offer that you can't refuse, right? So sometimes the offer is just too amazing to pass up, and the offer also could be entailing a stock option in an early stage company that may have a huge potential in the future, So this also is an example, just to give you some examples of what could be an amazing offer. So this is my reason number 6 that I have left a job in the past, is when I received an offer that was too amazing to pass up, and that's reason number 6 on my list. All right, so we're almost at the end here, but this is almost the most important bit of the video, right? Because we talked about these 6 reasons here you might want to consider when wanting to leave a job. So basically, one of these reasons could be enough on its own, or a combination of reasons. So if you have like maybe 2 reasons or 3 of these present at the same time in your role, it may be a good time for you to begin looking outside. But basically, my advice would be to always line up a new role before you leave your job, right? So this is not like in a movie when you walk into your manager and flip him the finger and just basically walk out. This is real life, and you want to be always able to rely on a salary, right? Especially now with the pandemic and everything that's going on, you want to secure that job first before deciding to leave your job. Also, don't make it about the money. Make the money the last reason to leave a job. Make it about your personal and professional growth, right? What you're going to learn, right? And also, if it's like an amazing offer, if it's something that's just going to develop you, like I said, in my example, in my story, getting an early on position at a startup and just understanding, building the accounting function from scratch has been something that's amazing for me in terms of an amazing offer, right? And then finally, in your next job, so if you've decided that you have enough reason to begin looking outside, in your next job, I want you to do this. I want you to, in the interview process, just like your hiring manager is interviewing you, you are looking at that future boss very carefully and making sure that this is someone that you like personally, right? So you want to like that person professionally, but you also want to make 100% sure you like them personally, because frankly, a lot of the time you're going to spend more time with them than you spend with your family or your spouse, right? So make sure the boss is someone you like. Make sure there's an upside, right? There always has to be an upside in that position. So money could be part of it, but I want you to always make sure that there's an upside in terms of learning. So you're maybe getting a bump up in title, right? Or as job responsibilities, you're learning new things. You're going to be maybe implementing a new software, if you like an ERP, if you're in accounting, right? So an upside is really important. And then finally, money. So money is, like I said, consistently throughout the video, money should be the last reason why you be making a job move. But when you do make the move, you always want to make sure you make more money, right? So you always want to make sure that it's more, you're moving forward and not backward and not staying still, right? Very rarely would you be in a situation where you want to take the same salary, right? So a lateral move. And you could do that sometimes strategically if you are getting a lot of other upsides and perks. However, I'll say it just worked for me in my history to always be looking to have an incremental increase in my salary, because obviously you build up, right? Every job, you go from one job to the next, to the next, to the next. If you are adding a 5 to 10% or sometimes even 20% increase, you're just like, it's a compounded increase over, a decade, let's say. So look for a good boss to work with, somebody you like. Always an upside in terms of title or job responsibilities, and always try to be moving forward in terms of salary. All right, that's it for this video, guys. If you liked it and you got some value from it, smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.